This is Arkies in the Beltway, a look at national politics and the Arkansans influencing the discussions. I'm Alex Thomas, Washington correspondent for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, reporting from the nation's capital. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Arkies in the Beltway for the week of August 4th, 2024. The halls of the U.S. Capitol are quiet. The Senate and House of Representatives spending the next few weeks away from Capitol Hill, with senators and House members returning to their states and districts for the annual August recess. Both chambers are not scheduled to return to Washington until the week of September 9th. The House began its recess period a week early, but the Senate remained in the district last week to get some work done before the break. One item, the ongoing search for answers related to the July 13th assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. The Senate Judiciary and Homeland Security Committees invited top officials with the Secret Service and FBI to Capitol Hill last Tuesday to testify about the failure in preventing the shooting at a Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Secret Service Acting Director Ronald Rowe speaking before senators.
The attempted assassination of former President Donald J. Trump on Saturday, July 13th, 2024, in Butler, Pennsylvania, was a failure on multiple levels.
One rallygoer died and two others were injured by gunfire. Trump was struck in the ear by a bullet or a bullet fragment. He would attend the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee days after the shooting. Senator Tom Cotton of R-Ark recalls following the rally and the assassination attempt on the former president.
As it happened, my 9-year-old son was watching with me that afternoon, and it was hard to get him to turn away from it. And he asked who all those men and women were who jumped on Mr. Trump. And I said, in layman's terms, those are his bodyguards. And he said, what are they doing? I said, they're protecting him from a bullet. And he said, actually? And I said, yes. He said, for real? And I said, yes. And it was hard for him to process that. But as a reminder, I told him that there are men and women in the Secret Service and law enforcement and the military who are willing to die for our country. And it's an important lesson, I think, that everyone should take away from this, that you had very brave men and women on the ground there who were doing their job to protect this country, to protect a former president and a nominee for president, as they do every day for so many other protectees.
Cotton took part in last week's hearing, given his membership on the Senate Judiciary Committee. The senator pressed Rowe about authorities spotting the gunman, identified as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, before the shooting. Authorities noticed Crooks with a rangefinder, including one moment 20 minutes before the first shot, in which Crooks was looking through the device.
Are officers not empowered on the front line to use common sense to say, like, if a guy has a laser rangefinder, he should be detained, or at least stopped, and that's why he's carrying it around?
The Secret Service, according to Rowe, will update its policy on prohibited items in light of the July 13th shooting. Rowe noted to Cotton that officers with the Secret Service's uniformed division may use their own judgment in addressing a possible threat to safety.
Even though something may or may not be on the prohibitive items list, they are well trained, and they do exercise that good common sense.
And you want this important message. Okay.
Rowe also addressed questions surrounding the Secret Service's denial of past requests from Trump's security detail for additional resources. He said the rejections are typically tied to a lack of resources when the requests are made, adding the Secret Service contacts local law enforcement groups about providing additional help in certain situations.
The asset may be denied by Secret Service between the war room and that conversation with the detail in the field, but it doesn't equate to a vulnerability or a gap.
Okay. Multiple investigations are underway concerning the attack and the shortcomings in protecting the former president. House leadership have formed a bipartisan task force to investigate the assassination attempt as well. Representative French of R-Ark celebrating a prisoner swap with Russia that ended with 3 Americans returning home. 16 political prisoners, including these Americans, were released in exchange for 8 Russians as part of a multinational deal involving the United States, Germany, Poland, Slovenia, Norway, and Turkey. Hill serves as co-chair of the Congressional Task Force on American Hostages and Americans Wrongfully Detained Abroad.
That is a cause for celebration in this nation because we have over 50 Americans that are held wrongfully in other nations. And when we have a success that can bring these Americans home after months, in some cases years of imprisonment, it's a victory.
Michigan Democrat Haley Stevens leads the task force with Hill. Among the Americans now back in the United States, Wall Street Journal reporter Aaron Kushkovich, who was serving a 16-year prison sentence for espionage charges that he and the United States have denied. The Senate confirming the nomination of one Arkansan to a national role. President Joe Biden nominated State Adjutant General Jonathan Stubbs as Director of the U.S. Army National Guard last month. The Senate approved the nomination and promotion to Lieutenant General before leaving Capitol Hill. Stubbs has served as State Adjutant General since the start of Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders' tenure in office. We told you last week about the House's approval of a date for unveiling the Johnny Cash statue at the U.S. Capitol. Now, that date is official. The Senate concurring with the House in authorizing the use of Emancipation Hall in the Capitol Visitor Center on September 24th for that event. The Cash statue, recognizing the Kingsland native and country music icon in the U.S. Capitol National Statuary Hall collection, states contribute 2 statues to the collection honoring important figures in their history. Arkansas currently only has 1 statue on Capitol Hill, recognizing civil rights leader Daisy Bates. That statue was unveiled to the public in May, to much fanfare. Shane Broadway serves as the chairman of Arkansas's National Statuary Hall Steering Committee.
It will be a great day to be an Arkansan, a great day to celebrate a great Arkansan and Johnny Cash. And so it's going to be memorable, just like Daisy was.
Broadway says the Cash statue is currently sitting in Little Rock, ready to be transported to the nation's capital when the time is right. When Senator John Boozman was growing up, it seemed like everyone he knew had a tie to the military. The senator from Rogers is no exception. His father was a waist gunner on B-17 bombers in World War II, and his uncle also served in that war. When it came to learning from these veterans as a child, however, Boozman says the older generations were not open about their experiences.
These were ordinary people that just did extraordinary things. And so often, those that were involved in conflict came home and just really never talked about it.
Boozman's office has prioritized collecting as many narratives from veterans as possible to be part of the Veterans History Project at the Library of Congress. Since the collection started in 2000, the Library of Congress has accepted videos, audio recordings, photographs, and other materials highlighting the experiences of more than 119,000 former military personnel. The collection includes individuals who served in conflicts from World War I to more recent operations in Afghanistan and Iraq. Boozman's office has submitted more than 100 accounts for the collection, including 7 more narratives the senator delivered to the Library of Congress last Monday. With World War II veterans in their 90s or older, Boozman recognizes a push to collect as many stories from this group as possible. He says there are still challenges in getting people to share their accounts, but once these veterans start to open up, they are more than willing to detail their time in the military.
As you get older, you lose your filter a little bit. And again, many of these people, had never really talked about it. Their children and grandchildren were surprised at their exploits and what they'd actually done. But sometimes it gets pretty colorful with some of the stories and the this and that, but that's the great part about it.
The Library of Congress has made the submissions and thousands of interviews available at their website, loc.gov. And that'll do it for this edition of Arkies in the Beltway for the week of August 4th, 2024. You can stay up to date with all news involving Arkansas at arkansasonline.com. You can get in touch with me on social media. My handle is at AlexHouseThomas. Special thanks, as always, to the team down in Little Rock. I'm Alex Thomas, and this has been Arkies in the Beltway. Thanks for listening.